Well, we are now going to take up the sheet Fun with Ultrasound. So I hope you guys gave this a try so that, if you made a mistake, you know where you made the mistakes. And again, no big deal if you made a mistake. That's why we're doing the follow-up with it. And it's a little bit difficult for you to do at home with no help. All right, so the first question asks you to find the volume of the bladder. So remember, when we're doing our volume of anything, we need our length, our width, and our height, okay? So we are going to use the longitudinal image to find some of these pieces of information. So we're going to use the longitudinal height to find the length and the height. So this is our bladder, all right? So we're going to find our length and our height. Now, unfortunately on this, it doesn't give you that if it's in centimeters or millimeters. It's in centimeters, but you know, if it doesn't matter if you have centimeters or millimeters, right? Just as long as you can do the measurement correctly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a longitudinal image to find the length. So the length is from one side of the bladder, from left to right, over to the right side of the bladder. And again, we're just trying to get as close as we can. It's not going to be perfect because we're not working with a machine. So we would take our scale here, all right? It's kind of hard for me to show you, but you're going to use this scale here and you're going to measure from this side to this side, okay? So it's going to come up to be, so from left to right, you would measure this according to this scale here, and you would find out that it's about 8 centimeters long, all right? So according to this scale, right? Not an actual ruler, but according to this scale, it's going to be 8 centimeters. Alrighty, so then we're going to do the height from the top to the bottom. All right, on exactly the same picture, we're going to get the height from the top to the bottom. And again, as close as you can get to it, doesn't matter if it's not perfect. And we would measure this to be about 4.5 centimeters. Now you might be about around 5 if you measured up there. Just if you can see the picture, you can see there's a little bit of, this is part of the lining of the bladder too, but it doesn't matter. If you're 4.5, 5, or 4.8, whatever, you're good. Okay, so that's our length and our height. And then we got to go to our transverse image, because the transverse is going to be the one that we find our width with. All right, so we got to go to our trans, and we got to make sure that we use this one to find our width. Alrighty, so our width here, we measure again from left to right. Our width is again about 8 centimeters wide. So to find our volume, we're going to do our length times our width times our height, which is 8 times 4.5 times 8, which is about 288 centimeters cubed. Okay, so the important thing for this is know which images you're going to be using to find the length, the width, and the height, and then just make sure you read the scale along the side here. And the scale along the side in a proper one is going to have the what units that you're using here, millimeters, centimeters. And the other thing too, remember when the technician is going click, 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 they're making little markings on the, they're doing the measurements for you. The machine will be doing all the measurements, all right? But that's just how the measurement works. Okay, so the next question on your thing was to label the tissue, the fluids, and the solid stone. All right, so tissue basically is any thick stuff that you see around. All right, so this, if you just look around here, here's tissue all around here, here's tissue all around here. Okay, so that would all be your tissue. Okay, then the next thing asks you to find the fluid. Now remember, in an ultrasound, the fluid comes up as being black. So this here is pretty dark colored. We're going to talk about this little black thing here in a second as well, okay? But this is going to be your fluid. This is going to be black. So that's your fluid, all right? And then this is going to be the stone, the solid stone in here, all right? Now what ends up happening is this is an echo. So this is making it look like how it bounces back when the sound waves bounce back. The machine thinks that there's nothing back here because the ultrasounds have bounced back, but it actually, that's why you do a whole bunch of different images so you can see there actually is tissue in there, right? So that's the echo that's under there. Okay, so what organ is this? The question is, what organ is this? Now this question, or this organ, is going to come up for darn tootin' sure, because it is the gallbladder, all right? If you were seeing another thing, this would be labeled as the liver. It sits down underneath the liver. And one of the things, the way to identify the gallbladder in an ultrasound is this exclamation mark sign. All right, so this here, this is like the top part of the exclamation mark. And if you see here, the portal vein here makes it look like the dot at the bottom of the exclamation mark. All right, so that's the exclamation mark sign. You're going to see this dark thing, this dark, long, skinny organ with this little dot down at the bottom. All right, so that is going to be the way you can identify the gallbladder. Okay. All right, so that's the gallbladder there. Now this here, how it twists, this dark thing here is the neck of the gallbladder, but basically that's the whole stem of the gall, like the thing that holds all the bile right in there. Okay, so here's something that's kind of interesting about the gallbladder. I know I just kind of shoved this in, we're doing the assignment, but basically the bile pigment. So bile is, it's kind of like the soapy stuff that's produced by the liver that helps break down fats from big globs into smaller little globs. So it's a soapy kind of a substance. It's made out of cholesterol. They can be black, brown, or yellow colored. A lot of them are actually made out of cholesterol. That's the most common type, but you can also have calcium deposits as well in there. All right, so sometimes this is the neck of the gallbladder. Here's your regular gallbladder here, and then you got to get the bile normally just flows nicely out of here into your small intestine and breaks those big chunks of fat into smaller little chunks of fat. All right, but here we have some gallstones clogging up that passageway, which makes this quite a painful experience to have gallbladder problems. All right, if you're pregnant, a lot of times you can end up with gallbladder problems. Excuse me, sorry. This is later taping today, and my cough kicks in at night so badly. All right, and if you've lost a whole pile of weight really, really quickly. So on shows like The Biggest Loser and all that, I'm always stunned that those people are not having gallbladder problems, because bam, if you lose a whole lot of weight, a lot of people with weight loss surgery end up getting gallbladder issues as well, because that's just one of the side effects. Your gallbladder is just used to spewing out bile all the time, and then when you're not, it kind of has a little bit of a problem. There's a little sort of saying that they say for people who are susceptible to gallbladder issues: if you're female, if you're fat, if you're 40 and it runs in your family, you can have gallbladder problems. All right, so sorry, chubby females. That was me. I had to have my gallbladder taken out. Okay, so here's some of the different types of gallstones that you can actually have. You can see the size of them. They're pretty darn massive, all right? So that's what gallstones look like. Alrighty, so here is how the gallbladder sits underneath your liver. Right, so it just sits kind of underneath your liver there. Your liver is constantly producing bile. The gallbladder stores it, so it just stores it until you eat. When you eat, there's all sorts of hormonal and electrical signals that come through here and say, okay, it's time to pump out that bile, and it's pretty concentrated. So it comes out pretty watery out of the liver, and then it's stored in the gallbladder, and it concentrates it. Okay, which is why you end up sometimes having stones that form in the gallbladder, because it ends up being really, really concentrated. So you can have stones that are blocked all the way along here. All right. I'm so sorry. All right. Here's how they remove a gallbladder. Most of the time, hopefully, if you don't have big serious complications where the gallbladder, the scar tissue has, embedded itself into the liver, but they go in through the belly button. They have a couple little marks here along the side. They just put it in, boop, 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 cut it out, bring it out. You barely have any scars at all. It's pretty darn amazing how easy they can do that operation now. Compared to, I know my mom had hers out. She had a big scar along the side, and it was this massive recovery time. And then when I had mine out, it was like, boop, done. You still have a 6-week recovery time or whatever. Like, well, not 6 weeks, like where you're lying around, but you're not supposed to do, go for a big marathon run or anything like that. But it healed really, really fast. Okay, so the next question, back to what we're doing. The next question is measure the width of the aortic aneurysm. Now we're going to talk about aortic aneurysms when we get into the heart stuff, but just so you know, for right now, a lot of older men, especially older men who have smoked, can tend to have an aortic aneurysm. Not all of them, but it's higher in older men especially older men who have smoked. So what ends up happening is, remember one of those CAT scan pictures, I showed you how the aorta goes all the way down to into the abdomen, and it's a really, really thick vessel. Well, for some reason, sorry, I'm going to keep coughing, and I don't want to keep stopping and starting to redo all this. The aorta will bulge down in the abdominal, well, it can bulge anywhere along the aorta, but in the abdomen, it can tend to bulge out. And so what they like to do is kind of keep track of it, because if they can keep track of it, if it's ready to pop, they can go in there and fix it. So we want to measure the width of the aortic aneurysm. So what they do is they'll measure the width from time to time. Usually, if it gets to be about 5.5 centimeters or larger, they start to repair it. If you're a male, if it's greater than 5 centimeters in a female, they start to repair it, and it happens. Usually it's around 3 centimeters, and again, it happens especially if you've smoked. If you're a male and you're older and you've smoked, chances are you may end up with an aortic aneurysm. All right. The females get to be fat and 40 with the gallbladder. The males have to be older with the smoking for the aortic aneurysm. Okay, so we're going to measure the width. Remember, the width on the trans goes from left to right. All right, so we're going to measure this. You can't see the scale very easily. I'm sorry about that again. All right, but this is, and again, it's in centimeters. And so we have the width is about 5 centimeters. Okay, now this ultrasound here is outline the kidney. So we've got the kidney all here. It's kind of nice how some of these organs, make sure you know gallbladder, make sure you know kidney, right? Because kidney is kind of kidney shaped. All right. All right, so we're gonna circle that thing. Okay. And then do I get, yeah, I do get into big thing. Okay, so one of the things that can happen with your kidneys is you can build up kidney stones. Now, kidney stones you can develop sometimes it's just a genetic thing. Sometimes it occurs because you're really, really dehydrated. Sometimes it's certain types of medications that you're taking. Sometimes if you have a really, really low carb, high protein diet, you can form calcium stones as well, or stones in your kidney. I don't think I get into a big long story here, but one of the ways you can, what they can do is they can put shock waves into, you lie down on the bench obviously, and they can use a machine that puts shock waves in here to try to break the big kidney stones up into smaller kidney stones so that you can pass them more easily. All right, so that's called lithotripsy, which is shock wave treatment. The other way they can do it is they, if you've got a stone that's in the ureter, they can use a oh my gosh, an oscopy that goes up the ureter. All right, so they just use a tube kind of thing with a little grabber on the end that goes up into the ureter, and then they can pull it back out. They can also go into the kidney and pull it out that way. They rarely do an open surgery where they go open you up and go into the kidney to do that, because that's pretty serious stuff. All right, so I think this is the second last page. Oh yeah, here's the other one, the nephrolithof. Oh my God, I can't. I'm sorry, you guys. It's late tonight when I'm taping this, and my English is going to be really, really poor, even though it's my first language and I don't know any other languages. Okay, so that is the take up for that. Okay, so hopefully you did okay. If you didn't, no big deal. Go back, fix it. It's just so that you have an understanding a little bit about how fun ultrasounds can be. Okay, so there's going to be another video coming up after this one where we're going to start to talk about our CT and MRIs. All right, so see you in a bit.